What if the world's most cost-effective fighter jet didn't come from a superpower with a trillion-dollar defense budget, but from a country of barely 10 million people? This is a Swedish highway, and that's a fighter jet landing on it on purpose. Sweden built an aircraft designed to disperse into its own forests, refuel on public roads, and keep fighting even after every major airbase in the country has been destroyed. It's called the Gripen. And in several of the metrics that actually matter in a real war, cost, readiness, and survivability, it makes a serious case against the most expensive fighter jet ever built, the F-35. This is the story of how a small, neutral country engineered a fighter jet specifically to survive a war nobody else thought it could win. Chapter 1. A country that couldn't afford to lose. To understand why Sweden built the Gripen the way it did, you have to understand its Cold War position, officially neutral, outside NATO and the Warsaw Pact, with no alliance guaranteeing reinforcements if the Soviet Union invaded. That left Swedish planners with a blunt reality. If a fight came, they'd fight it alone against a vastly larger adversary. The doctrine that emerged was called total defense, making occupation prohibitively expensive for anyone who tried it. This wasn't Sweden's first unconventional aerospace attempt. The Gripen was the world's first double-delta combat aircraft. The Viggen followed with canards and an early digital central computer, years ahead of the rest of the world. By the time Saab began designing the Gripen in the late 1970s, Sweden had a decades-long habit of building fighters unlike anything else in the sky. Chapter 2. The jet, designed to land on a road. Sweden's planners assumed their major airbases would likely be destroyed within hours of any real conflict. Out of that came the BAS 90 doctrine, the requirement to disperse entirely, operating out of 500-meter stretches of ordinary public highway hidden inside Sweden's vast forests. The Gripen was engineered around that from the start. Takeoff in roughly 400 meters, landing in about 500, even on packed snow. A team of just 5 conscripts and a single technician using one mobile support truck can refuel and rearm a Gripen in about 10 minutes. Nearly double the rate most NATO air forces typically achieve with far larger ground crews. It's a doctrine built around one idea: if you can't protect your airfields, don't depend on airfields at all. Chapter 3. The jet that wants to flip over. Most aircraft are aerodynamically stable, center of gravity ahead of center of lift, keeping the nose level but making the aircraft sluggish in a turn. The Gripen was deliberately built the opposite way, an inherently unstable airframe that wants to flip over. That instability isn't a flaw, it's the point. An unstable airframe can snap into a turn far more violently than a stable one, which matters for a lightweight fighter facing larger adversaries. The catch is that no human pilot can react fast enough to keep a genuinely unstable aircraft airborne on reflexes alone. So the Gripen relies on a triple redundant digital fly-by-wire system, making thousands of corrective adjustments every second. Getting that system right very nearly ended the entire program. Building an aircraft that's deliberately designed to be unstable is one thing on a whiteboard. Trusting a computer to keep that same aircraft in the air, with a pilot strapped inside it, is something else entirely. And in the early 1990s, that trust nearly collapsed the entire project. Chapter 4. The crash that almost ended the Gripen. Test pilot Lars Raderström flew the Gripen through 2 separate crashes in 1989 and again in 1993. Both were traced to pilot-induced oscillation, a feedback loop where the flight software's response time didn't quite match the pilot's inputs, causing correction to stack on correction until the aircraft became uncontrollable. 2 very public crashes involving the same test pilot created a genuine political crisis for the program. Raderström reportedly said, after the second crash, that he was done pushing his luck. and retired from flight testing at 50. His feedback became essential to fixing the underlying problem. Engineers spent years refining the control logic until the system's response time finally matched human reaction speed closely enough to eliminate the oscillation entirely. What emerged became one of the most refined fly-by-wire systems flying today. Chapter 5. The radar that looks around corners. Most modern fighter radars, including the F-16s, are fixed in the nose, pointed straight ahead. The Gripen E's Raven radar is mounted on a mechanical swivel, giving it a roughly 120-degree field of view, well beyond what a fixed array can achieve. That lets a pilot guide a missile toward a target while angling the aircraft away from that target's own radar. Pair that radar with the Meteor missile, a ramjet-powered weapon with a reported no-escape zone stretching roughly 200 kilometers, and a relatively small, inexpensive aircraft gains the ability to threaten targets well before those targets can meaningfully respond. It's the technical basis for calling the Gripen a giant killer. Not more powerful, but built to engage from a range and angle where size stops mattering as much. If a story this strange is worth your time, it's probably worth a like, and subscribing means you'll catch the next one too. Chapter 6. Software that fights on day 2. Perhaps the most forward-looking feature of the Gripen E isn't physical, it's how Saab structured the aircraft's software. Flight-critical code is kept entirely separate from mission-specific software like radar settings or weapons parameters. That separation matters in an actual conflict. Engineers can update radar behavior or weapons data based on what's learned on day 1 of a war and have that updated software ready for pilots by day 2 without recertifying the safety of the entire flight control system every time something changes. That software-first philosophy was reportedly tested during red flag exercises in Alaska in 2006, where Swedish Gripens were said to have posted a striking result against F-16S and Eurofighters. The specific numbers reported have circulated widely, though independent verification remains difficult from open sources. What's less disputed is that the exercise noticeably shifted how several NATO air forces talked about the Gripen afterward. Chapter 7. Where the F-35 still wins. None of this means the Gripen simply outclasses the F-35 across the board, and it's worth being honest about where the comparison actually favors Lockheed Martin's aircraft. The F-35 is a genuine stealth platform shaped and coated specifically to minimize radar reflection in a way the Gripen was never designed. Chapter 7. Where the F-35 still wins. None of this means the Gripen simply outclasses the F-35 across the board, and it's worth being honest about where the comparison actually favors Lockheed Martin's aircraft. The F-35 is a genuine stealth platform shaped and coated specifically to minimize radar reflection in a way the Gripen was never designed to match. It also carries a far more integrated sensor fusion suite, feeding radar, infrared, and other aircraft data directly into a single tactical picture, years ahead of anything in the Gripen's cockpit. What the Gripen actually argues for isn't total superiority. It's a different theory of survival, where being cheap enough to build in large numbers and simple enough to hide and repair almost anywhere matters just as much as being invisible to radar. In a long, grinding conflict where airbases are genuine targets and budgets aren't infinite, that argument has become considerably harder to dismiss. Chapter 8. The Gripen Renaissance. That argument has gained new weight recently. The war in Ukraine has made the vulnerability of fixed airbases starkly visible, and the ballooning sustainment costs of stealth fleets have become harder for many governments to justify. Several nations that once dismissed the Gripen as a budget alternative have started reconsidering its dispersed operations model as a genuinely serious defensive strategy, rather than a compromise forced by a small budget. Conclusion: the masterpiece of constraint. The Gripen was never built by a country with unlimited resources, and that constraint shaped every decision behind it. A single engine instead of two, a radar that swivels instead of one that's simply larger, software built to be updated in weeks rather than years. None of it was compromise for its own sake. Every choice traces back to a single, unglamorous question: how do you keep fighting after your airbases are already gone? Closing line: the Gripen was never designed to be the most powerful fighter jet in the sky. It was designed to still be flying after everything around it had already fallen, and in a war shaped by constraint rather than unlimited budgets, that might turn out to be the harder problem to solve. If you enjoyed this one, there's more where it came from. Subscribing means you won't miss the next. See you in the next video.
Romeo Foxtrot, turn left.